Hey everybody, today's guest is Lou Ionis, a certified whole person coach and former executive with leadership experience at companies like Nike and HP. Lou blends deep emotional intelligence with business acumen, helping leaders of all levels build sustainable confidence, align with their values, and lead with authenticity. He's worked across industries from tech to apparel to education and specializes in helping people take ownership of their growth, whether they're stepping into their first management role, like I was a couple years ago, or reshaping an organization's culture. Lou has been my coach for several years, and I can personally say his insight, presence, and care have changed my life. It's an honor to kick off this deep dive with someone who not only understands the leadership journey, but lives it. So, Lou, thanks so much for taking the time with me.
No, thank you. I mean that intro is fabulous. I didn't know how good I sounded. Thank you.
Somewhere on your LinkedIn presence or website, you had a really good pitch. So, I kind
Nice.
of wanted to dig into your overall, how you transitioned into coaching. So I would love to know if there was a defining moment or a personal shift that changed your path. What was that like?
Yeah, I was in the corporate world for about 25 years or so,
Mm,
and I jumped around a lot. I went from accounting to IT to manufacturing to project management to lots of different areas. I kept
mm,
hopping around. And what I was doing was really basically finding things that I was really good at, and I did really well at them, but then I'd get burnt out or bored or
mm,
frustrated, and I would just leave. I would leave that thing, that position, that industry, and just try something new. And so I was haphazardly just kind of taking shots in the dark, hoping that the next thing that I do that I was good at, that I would actually like doing. And I got to a point of hopping around so much that I got tired of it and really, really tired of it. And so I sat down and I thought, okay, there has to be like something that I enjoy doing that I actually get energized by.
mm.
And I took some time. I took some time because nothing was coming up on my like little list until I thought about the fact that I got to sit one on one with my direct reports, and I would lose track of time. I would be there, and before I knew it, it was the end of the one on one. Or if somebody had mentor conversations with me, I just loved that. I love sitting
Mm,
with people and just learning about what's going on in their life.
mm,
What can I do to help them? Are there things that they need that I could be helpful with? And so that I wrote down on my list, and that was pretty much it. And I thought, geez, if there was a job where I could just do one on ones all day long, that would be like the dream job for me. Which, if I told that to anyone else, like my peers, they'd think I was crazy because usually managers, for a lot of managers, the one on ones are usually the first thing to drop off the calendar. But for me, it was like I wanted to drop all of the functional work I had to do and only do one on ones, which was just kind of crazy. And I thought it was a stupid idea. So I just dropped it and walked away for many
mm.
years until I ran across this thing called coaching. And I thought, gosh, that sounds really familiar to what I want to do, and looked into it. And I went back to school, got certified, and I ended up doing coaching while I was still working a full time job. And it was really interesting because I would come home tired, run down, frustrated from my normal day job, and then realize, oh no, wait, I got a coaching session this evening. And all of a sudden, that wasn't like an oh worried or burdensome. That was like a oh no, like yay, I get to do coaching. And I would get energized and I would be just, energized throughout it. Ending, I would still be energized and it wouldn't matter. I could get up at, do a session at 6 or 7 in the morning, do them at night, do them on the weekends. And I was just always energized. And time again, it became very obvious that that was consistent. I would still come home from regular work, run down, tired, stressed out, and didn't matter what time of day of the week, I could do coaching, and I was excited. And so I decided to just to cut the ties with the corporate world, never looked back, just started going. I ended up getting fully certified in all of that and just went from there. And so every day, each week, I get to sit with people and jump into their worlds and do what it is that I thought was a crazy job that didn't exist, but it does. And I'm so glad I found it.
I'm so glad you found it too, because that energy that you are re-energized by every time you meet a client is felt by your clients. Like me, I always was like, oh, can I do not just one-on-ones with my direct reports? Can I do one-on-ones with Lou as my coach every day, all day? So it's definitely infectious, and your energy, enthusiasm to having that mentorship kind of conversation on a regular basis with these clients is incredible. And it kind of also speaks to your interest in trying many things and that you can plug into many other of your clients' industries and problem sets. It seems like you have a really broad range of topics to discuss and kind of creating a very holistic type of coaching. I feel like there's been many topics, and even there's so many things outside of work that really inform the way you bring yourself to work. And that was something that was really an insight for me. Can you speak to the phrase that I've seen, you use around creating life leaders? How do you approach the more traditional ideas of success?
Yeah. No, that's a great call it, and I appreciate that you picked up on that
Mm,
in all of our coaching, because I truly do believe, that we should be looking at being leaders for our whole life, not just a particular job or a role, but we
mm,
should be taking the lead and taking control of what we're doing in our whole entire life. Everybody should be leading their life. And I use the term in my practice that I am a whole person coach, not just a executive coach in that focused on just a company or just a particular function or industry or just a type of person. I back up and I want to really engage and get to know the entire person that I'm coaching, because like you mentioned, it really is very important to understand how we show up across our entire life in all the different situations, because at the root, we're all experiencing the same similar problems across all aspects of our life. Whether it's a problem with a boss or a peer at work or a friend or a loved one at home, at the surface, they look like completely different situations and people. But down below the surface at the root, it's still just humans trying to get along and try to solve problems. And so if we learn how we solve our problems outside of work in all these different situations, and then to exactly what you say, we use it to inform what's going on in that moment for us to create the solutions that ultimately will benefit us in the future.
well said. And I think I saved a lot of money when I realized I really didn't need a therapist and work with you, because I feel like we forget how much time we spend even at work and how much is informed by all of the aspects of our lives, and you making it kind of a safe space to kind of look holistically at what is affecting our leadership style is really important to your client's growth. If somebody's coming in for the first time and isn't familiar with one coaching or your style of coaching, how do you assess that whole person in the first few sessions? What is it like to kind of work with you? Because I know personally you have a very customized approach, and we've talked about how every client is created differently. So how would you approach someone who is interested but maybe doesn't know much about coaching?
Some people are a little bit more guarded or protective or siloed in their thinking a little bit more than others. And so I don't go into force anything. I don't go into prescribe a certain structure or a certain type of list of how we operate, type of methodology. My sole purpose is to show up and understand where the person's at and what it is that they need. And that's our starting point. And as part of the environment that I'm trying to create, it is one that is safe, and it's a environment that creates trust and confidence with the other person, that I'm only there for them and I'm only there to see how they can figure out what works best for them. From my side, a coach is not somebody who will tell you what to do. A coach isn't one to solve your problems for you. A coach is there to help you figure that out. And
Mm.
it's really, the coach is in the passenger seat, not the driver's seat. And the coach is helping just to facilitate. And the coach could very well point out there's a pothole coming up. And if you want to go over it, you can totally go over it. And we'll talk about it as you would go over it if that was something that worked for you. But we learn together. So part of that initial, time that I spend with clients, it is really just developing that common connection with each other to figure out what is the operating model. Because to your point, it's going to be different. Every client is different. What everybody needs is slightly different. So I can't go in with anything pre kind of prescribed.
Not only are you a great passenger, but you're not a backseat driver with each of your clients. I feel like if we would talk about that pothole that I'm encountering at work, you would say, yeah, I encountered that pothole. This is what happened to me in my experiences, almost take it or leave it, synthesize it the way you would. I never felt like you were saying, Jonathan, watch out for that pothole right over there. So I think that's a really gentle way to help your clients grow and learn naturally with making mistakes too. We all have these ups and downs. It was kind of like building the frameworks and building the mechanisms that we could self-heal or get through those obstacles on our own, which is, I think, really a powerful aspect of your coaching.
You touched on something that just kind of came up for me, that
Hmm.
that in order for me to really be there for the clients, I can't have any judgments. I can't
Hmm.
be judgy. I just can't. I That just will not
Hmm.
work. And that's really hard. That's really
Hmm.
hard to never have a preconceived kind of notion or bias. And so I think that is incredibly important for a coach to be able to be
Hmm.
completely like clean from that perspective, that I'm just coming
Hmm.
in and I'm sitting down and I'm not going to judge you at all. There's no reason. If I'm judging you, it's because of my own stuff that's coming up inside of me and my own ego, right? And
Hmm.
I cannot come in with any of that. If I really want to help my client, I have to come in wiped clean of all of that and just truly, yeah, just sit down with them and go, "Hey, yeah, that is a pothole. Yeah." And talk about it.
Hmm.
And if, yeah, to your point, if they're like, "Yeah, Lou, have you hit potholes before?" "Yeah, I have. Yeah, I'm happy to share,
Hmm.
but it's just a sharing. It's a partnership and sharing, not to your point, not telling the person what to do. And to me, if I'm telling you what to do, that is coming from a place of judgment.
Yeah, thank you for that. I feel like you've definitely set us up for success here. And speaking of kind of the overarching themes from some of your clients, what maybe are one or two success stories where there was not maybe a linear path to success, and obviously everybody has a different journey, but maybe some thematics on what are successful traits that you're seeing in your clients to have the biggest gains when working with a coach like you.
Yeah. First off, in order for any of the coaching to ever just even get off the ground, the person
Mm.
has to want to be there. And so there isn't much transformation in those situations where somebody's been prescribed coaching and said, "Hey, do this coaching thing and as part of your like performance improvement plan, and if you can't get better, then you'll be fired." That kind of situation, that does not work. It does not work. If anybody ever comes to me
Mm.
wanting to do that, I politely redirect them to other solutions, because coaching in that instance does
Mm.
not work. So the first off, I mean, somebody has to be willing and have that kind of interest to want to do coaching. And so the transformations that I see are the ones where people just totally like let go and are opening themselves up to this particular forum or environment that we're creating here,
Mm.
because it's, to
Mm.
me, it's a very, very unique and special environment right here when you have a coach and coachee that I've never seen duplicated anywhere else. I can sit with my wife and tell my wife all about my woes and situations, and as much love as she gives, she's going to give her opinions and her ideas and
Mm.
her thoughts about it. Same with my parents or my friends or my boss, anybody that I talk
Mm.
to, there's going to be a level of what they think and what they think I should do. And
Mm.
so a lot of people are guarded when they come in to these situations, and they kind of have some walls up because they don't really want to be told what to do all the time. And so when I see the biggest transformation, when people sit down in this environment and just let go of all of that and
Mm.
feel like, you know what, my coach is going to allow me just to be me and not tell me what they think about me. They don't judge
Mm.
me. No, this is a very special place where the client can come in and just literally just crack open their head, unfiltered, dump it on the
Mm.
table, and just say, "There you go." And for me to go, "Cool. What do we want to do with that?" Versus, "Oh
Mm.
my gosh, you got to be kidding me. That's what's in your head." So the biggest transformations that I see are the ones where somebody relaxes and opens themselves up. And when you get everything out on the table unapologetically and just put it out there, and then you have a partner sitting next to you, your coach, and you guys are looking at it together to go, huh, okay, then you can really, really affect so much in your life when you do that, because it's not just you by yourself just trying to figure it out. You got a partner right there with you. And so those are the times where I see it just take off, and people really make some big jumps and changes in their entire life, not just their job, let's say.
100%. And letting go is such a great theme for executive
Mm.
leaders who, come in, I myself included, came in thinking, you gotta rule with an iron fist and everything, and almost have this brave facade of infallibility, or that you have all the answers. And to break open, like you said, is a very vulnerable thing. It's admitting
Mhm.
that you may be wrong, that you need kind of a 360 view on what your blind spots are. And that is very kind of antithetical to what a lot of people think being a great leader is. And that's what you really helped teach me. I don't know, Jonathan, let's figure it out. I'm your partner. I support you in saying, maybe that was a mistake, and kind of like showing up at these meetings, being as vulnerable, because you don't know what's going on at a client's work unless they are vulnerable enough to share the full context and almost hear themselves talk through these, because there's nothing else to talk about otherwise if you don't bring in the whole person into these calls. You were mentioning the kind of being vulnerable and letting it go. I've never met you in person in my life. I've seen this much over years, and while we feel very connected and on a personal level, I feel like you're open to sharing about your life and your personal experiences, as some of your clients may be. But this is a new world in the last 5 years. We've had a lot of remote work. We've had a lot of hybrid teams. What changes have you seen, one, to the client relationship, and two, to your clients' relationships with their work in hybrid, in remote work generally, and kind of find the humanity in this, two-dimensional world?
Yeah, it is such a shift in how we all interact. And yeah, COVID really did this kind of instant kind of transformation
Mm,
of our workplace, which was an interesting one in that before, most companies, yeah, you had people in the offices walking down the halls, chatting in the kitchen. You could look around and see who's sitting at their desk and who's not, who's on their phone, who's not. But you shift into this digital world and Zoom meetings and things like this. There's definitely a loss that happened that a lot of companies didn't quite understand was happening, and they didn't understand. If they understood what was happening, they didn't understand what to do about it. And that's that, walking down the hall and chatting and seeing somebody in the kitchen and having a really quick conversation with them, or sitting down at the desk and turning your head and just yelling over to the person next to you about something that you need help on, or even just a personal thing. Hey, what are you doing later today? So all of that was kind of lost. And what that ended up doing is taking a hit to this feeling of community, right? And belonging. And I know those terms are, I feel like, sometimes overused or gotten to a point where they're just kind of buzzwords sometimes. But just truly, truly, when I walked into the office and could see people, even if I didn't even say hi to them, they're still part of my community. And if they weren't there when I was walking to my desk, I would probably go, huh, they're always here. I wonder what's wrong. Even though I don't even know the person, I
mm,
might even think about that. So there was these connections that we had, but once we moved to remote life, when I hit end on the meeting, I'm just alone. I'm
mm,
alone. If I want to talk to somebody, I can talk to my dog, but that was it. So I think, when this is happening and people are disconnecting from the meetings, and then there's silence, there's a lot of thinking that goes on, a lot of thought that goes on with, I don't know, do I want to be with this company anymore? Do I like my job? Do I not? Should I
mm,
just, move to another company? And
mm,
because I'm not engaged throughout the workday with this community of work, then I'm kind of disconnected, and I'm not very engaged. And
mm,
so there, as we've evolved from then till now, and
mm,
this hybrid mix of in the office, not in the office, and some companies that are mandating back to return to the office,
mm,
it's an interesting kind of shift again, that I think is interesting. But the point I think that needs to be highlighted is for people that are in the mix in this situation of hybrid, that there is an understanding of what does it mean to have connections and
Mm,
community, that feeling of kind of, yeah, I'm actually a part of this bigger company and or this bigger group, or and it can totally 100% be created remotely.
mm,
100% could be created remotely. That is 100%, I feel, a true statement. I
mm,
just feel a lot of companies, organizations, leaders don't understand how to do it. And
mm,
especially when it is hybrid and you have some people in the office and some people remote, that's even more complex for lots of different reasons. And so a lot of the folks that I run across are running into this situation where they have people they feel aren't engaged or aren't doing what they need to do. And then it quickly turns to conversations of, oh, I need to put them on a PIP, a performance improvement
mm,
plan, right?
mm-hmm.
Immediately. It's like this because they just don't trust. They just don't feel like they have some sort of connection with that other person. So all of a sudden they take that to an extreme and don't understand how to solve that particular problem.
Even in the model that you hold as a coach, I remember frequently you would bring in like, we'd have a really interesting conversation in our session, and then I'd see an email 15 minutes later with a resource, a book that inspired you in your career or something. So it's like going a little bit beyond the margins of that 60-minute calendar window really can say, oh wait, Lou is thinking beyond just the confines of that meeting about me, even though I'm still alone with my dog or whatever is going on in my personal life. And that informed me in with my direct reports, sharing a lot of resources that you may also see in the digital landscape that are maybe self-help, Mel Robbins podcast, or this book by the coach of the 49ers about leadership, just trying to almost involve team members in things that maybe have a definite overlap with work but aren't so hardline directly related to the deliverable that will end up in the pip, like not so inside the margins all of the time. I think you help with your clients, and then the clients can kind of pay it forward and say there's a world beyond this digital landscape. One other thing I wanted to touch on in this digital world, in the age of AI and layoffs and all of the, let's say, increased intensity in the workspace and managing your relationship with your brand, with LinkedIn, with social media. How do you recommend to your clients, or how do you even yourself work with avoiding comparison to other coaches or folks dealing with burnout or a job transition? How do you navigate a healthy digital diet as you're navigating your career?
That's a great question. And I think a lot of us do fall into this kind of comparison, right?
Mm,
And the funny thing is, so if I'm going to compare myself, that's a form of judgment. I'm just
mm,
judging other people against me. And so sometimes I might think that I'm better than them, or sometimes I think they're better than me. It's an activity of judgment. Judgment is just it creates such negativity. And so there's absolutely no reason to judge yourself against anyone else. It's almost like it's a bit of pride too. Sometimes we have like a lot of pride for ourselves,
mm,
and we think, okay, yeah, I want to do good and I want to be the best, and in order to be the best, that means there must be a worst somewhere out there, and so I want to be the best coach ever. So how do I match up? And that's just a road that's just going to go take you into frustration and even sadness and
mm.
depression.
Yeah.
And so, understanding that I, as a coach, and this is something that I try to help clients understand is, we're doing our best work, or at least we know whether or not we're doing our best work. We know. If
Mm,
I'm sandbagging it, I know, and that's okay. Just be honest with ourselves. I mean, if I'm really kind of pulling out all the stops, then I'm pulling out all the stops. And if I get mediocre results, I'm getting mediocre results. I mean, it's just the way things work. And I don't need to be upset at myself. I don't need to be down on myself, especially if I'm doing the best job that I can do. So understanding that I'm putting my best foot forward and I'm just trying to do the best job that I can do. And how can I do better? You know what? Let me look and see what other coaches are doing
mm,
and learn and see what seems to be working for them, and just take it not as a threat, not as a like, oh no, I'm doing better than that, that's a stupid thing, or no, oh, that's actually kind of cool, I guess I'm not doing a good job. No, it's a matter of looking at, hey, what great things are people doing that I can learn from, And it's just it's like a shift in how you approach life, which I think is just so much more, powerful within me, and back to this taking, the lead of your life, being a leader in your life, you can do that so much easier if you're in a place of confidence and strength.
100%. You touched on so many themes I was thinking about in why my relationship with you works so well, because you are a person who I see you as a mental model of someone I admire, who the insights that you give in our sessions just makes me feel good. It's almost like you know it when you feel it. You know when you're doing your best work. And then if you hit that groove, you're never going to go back. And you kind of are able to distinguish between kind of like when in meditation, when you drift off and you need to bring your mind back to the breath. It's almost like if you go a little too comparison shopping heavy, you need to bring it back to what can I take out of this that is productive, that I'm inspired by with a positive energy versus a I'm going to beat them kind of an energy. And that's a lot of what I think your whole thesis embodies with the whole person coaching, is that you don't try to be anything else but offer your best gifts. You talk about being a mentor, and having and being energized by the one-on-ones that works for you, and you're not trying to punch above your weight, and you know what feels good, and you know how you can serve people, and that's enough. How do you rebuild your own confidence in this world where more coaches are growing, and how do you see your role even evolving in the next phase of your career?
Yeah, that's something that I don't necessarily think too much about, because I show up and I'm seeking to be there for my clients.
Mm,
And so, as long as I am coming to the table present and
mm,
focused on my clients, then my clients are the ones that are doing most of the work, right?
right.
They're the ones that have to like lay it out on the table.
Mm,
If I'm finding that I'm getting distracted, or if you say something that I somehow get triggered by or something like this is what I need to work on, because I cannot be in a place if you're going to tell me something and I'm going to get triggered by it. I can't coach in that zone,
mm,
right? And so I'm always working on myself to make sure that I can truly just be present without anything pulling me out of the actual session, right? So if somebody mentions something that I'm just like, oh no, oh gosh, that's horrible or something, that's a trigger for me to go, whoa, 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 wait, I'm pulling my own crap into this session, and I can't. So I think I time and time again kind of return to, hey, how can I be present and here in the moment? Like you said, if you sit in meditation, for anybody who's done meditation, you have an object that you're trying to like focus on, and then you drift away and you're wherever, I don't
mm,
know. It's something that's returning back again and again. And I'm strengthening these skills. And as
mm,
long as I'm doing that, and then keeping my eyes open and understanding how things are happening in our world, and what
mm.
are the things that people are struggling with, understanding the situation so that I can make sure that I can stay fully connected with people. I'm constantly just working on my own practice.
That's so resonant, because before you answer that question, I was thinking, how would I encapsulate your coaching style? Even this interview, it's, oh, I have 30 questions here on a Google Doc next to me, but I'm focused on Lou's responses because he demands presence just by being
Mm.
so present with his clients. And so that is in itself the reward, by going deeper, focusing on your direct reports or the people you lead in those one-on-ones, and saying, how can I be present with you? Because ultimately, like you just said, I'm not doing all of the work. A lot of managers are often just empowering, removing blockers from their direct reports. So they need to be very present. And often they can get distracted or think about those more performative aspects of leadership. So being present with your clients, I think, is an amazing way to grow. And wonderful to be present with you in whatever form that takes. Lou, we've had a great conversation. What didn't I ask?
The one thing that I would say, my little
Mm,
story at the beginning of me hopping around and me just kind of not really knowing what to do when I grew up, kind of
mm,
thing, for 25 years, which is kind of sad in some respects. But you know, I don't look back and I don't regret that. It's just part of what got me to this point where I figured out what it is I enjoy. And I really do feel everybody has that potential, right? To
Mm,
figure out, what do I really enjoy? What really excites me? What really
mm,
kind of drives me? When I wake up in the morning, am I thinking, gosh, how many hundreds of emails do I have in my inbox? And do I really want to get out of bed? No, I have to get out of bed because it's just going to get worse. Is that what you're thinking when you get up in the morning?
mm,
Or are you like, really literally just kind of pop out of bed and I'm like, cool, let me just get started. And I love my day and I love my week and I love my job. I feel everybody has that potential to figure out, what is it that really energizes me and excites me, and it just doesn't burn out. It just continues to go ignite me. And not every job is going to have 100% of that. There's going to be things in everybody's day-to-day life that they don't want to do and they would prefer not to do. But
mm,
how can you increase the percentage of things that are energizing you? I feel a coach is a partner that can help you get there. And I just
mm.
wish no doubt I would have figured out being a coach faster if I had the resource of a coach, 20 some odd years ago. I had my parents who recommended what I should be doing for my career, tried it, didn't like it, didn't want to do it, hopped around and didn't know how to figure it out. If I had a coach, that would have been just epic. And I would have
Mm,
been doing this thing that I get to do every single day. I'm grateful for every day that I have now that I get to do this.
mm.
And I really do appreciate you kind of pulling me into this podcast.
It's been great. And I mean, I would say, just to respond a little bit, I'm grateful. I mean, I know it was painful for the 25 years you weren't a coach, but I feel like you've informed so many of your sessions with clients with those hard earned experiences too. I think you should add energy healer to your LinkedIn as well, because it is so much about energy and finding that alignment and what really lights up your clients, because we see it in you as a coach that you are waking up so excited to meet with all of your clients. You can't really change the past, whether it's 25 days or 25 years, but you can try to make change incremental and really work through these issues on a daily basis, as you mentioned, throughout your entire life. So thank you so much for taking the time with me today, but also taking the time with all of your clients. And Lou, how can folks reach out to you? How can they find you and work with you?
Yeah, the best place is ioniswpc.com. So IONIS WPC, whole person coach. That's the best way. And I invite all conversations. Anybody who wants to just chat, talk, run something by me, my door is always open.
Well, Lou, thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Bye-bye.